and it's the 12 Days of Buscema, really. But that's one of the things about that I loved about the character was two of his my favorite characters he did outside of Silver Surfer is obviously Thor being my favorite, and Mr. Conan himself. I was just saying, I said when I was looking up when I pulled this out, which is a John Buscema the portfolio, the Conan, very Magnus-esque, just standing there, just really cool. You know,
well, the cover for issue 1 is actually I lifted specifically from one of his covers.
Nice,
nice.
Standing atop of like a pile of bones or whatever. That's what I did for issue 1.
Nice. Yeah, I was pulling out a bunch of Conans. So.
And that's kind of another thing we like to do is blatantly steal from other people when we're doing like photos and stuff like
right.
Yeah. we just find that the coolest thing about like working for ourselves essentially is that, you know, we're not stealing as far as like the storyline, but if we see a really awesome pose, then it's probably going to end up being a cover or something like that.
Right.
That's about right.
One of the things about this one, I want to, like, when you guys have been working together now, and I've been working together a little bit, I know you're big Jason Aaron and Russell Dowderman fans, so you can appreciate when I say that there is something to be said about Jason and his relationship with his artists, Ribic and Dowderman in particular, that their work evolved together. And I think that's what I've seen. What I'm seeing with you guys is, your first one, you introduced this character in the most gory, bloody, hysterical fashion.
Love it, right?
And then we find out he's got some kind of a human side in the beginning of this one, but he's kind of like, I'm not going to spoiler alert it, but just imagine if Conan was funny enough to be the fourth guy in Mystery Science Theater 3000.
JD, 1 second. I'd like to recap really quick for, I guess we popped into YouTube just a little bit late, and I want to give a quick recap to the people who are watching us here live on YouTube. I've got JD Comics here, and of course, you know, I'm JB, and we're on Comic Core, and we are live right now with the creators of Magnus the Brave. I've got the writer, Ace Knuckles, right above me, and the artist, Chrisrauart, that side, right over here, that way over there, and we're just shooting the stuff with them in a new show that we're just calling, you know, I don't even know what we call the show, but
Between Two Nerds.
Between Two Nerds, which is us two over here, which I still can't get the directions right. And if you're just joining us, thank you for joining us as we are learning about this tandem, this duo, and how long they've been together. 3 years. They've been in the industry for a while. And if you haven't gotten your hands on this, and how can you get your hands on this again, Chris, for the people who are just now joining us? How do you get your hands on this book?
So go to my website. It's chrisrauart.etsy.com, or you can just find me on Instagram or Facebook.
We're going to get that in the description before the end of the show. So before the end of this show, you'll be able to check him out at the description below. So now go ahead, JD. I'm sorry I had to cut you off there. I just got a private note saying that nobody in YouTube knew what the hell we were talking about. Exactly, so I wanted to kind of recap for those people that were joining us. Real quick, I have a question for Chris, especially, you know, JD, you love artists and everything. Yeah. What artists have inspired you? What artists have inspired your works?
Oh man, that's a big question. The number one, or my absolute favorite comic artist of all time is Ryan Otley. If you guys have ever read Invincible, it's my favorite comic book of all time. So that's kind of like what I style this cartoony, gory thing after. I basically steal from him all the time. Other ones are, oh man, there's just so many. Jay Lee I'm a huge fan of Jay Lee, although my style doesn't quite follow that. But like I love those dark shadows and that realistic stuff. I guess some of the gore that comes through, if you have ever read like the Dark Tower books or anything like that, they're pretty amazing. There's just so many that I could name. I'm an art teacher also, so like I have a little bit more of like a traditional background in art as well. So excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm getting over a fever right now. I apologize.
All right.
One thing to follow up on that. You mentioned Ryan Otley, absolutely fantastic and great one. And you mentioned that you're an art teacher. One of the artists I think that transcends it, and you brought up the gory, is Wrightson, obviously. But it's funny when I see your work, there is There's a little bit Mike Mignola in there too. I
appreciate that. That's
I do see it in the action, especially in the action scenes. I'm not saying all Hellboy. I mean, a lot of what Mignola has done and a lot of his other works, that action style is very much in there with the, you don't have to see it hit the top of the head to know that's how it's in the middle. Like, you didn't have
great line right there.
It's kind of like one of the great things about the book is the artwork is there's drawing comics a certain way, and the way this comic is done is all the action scenes and all the gory scenes is, all right, guess where this is going to end up next, and it's, you see the sword device, whatever it's going to be, and it's next thing you know, it's right where it shouldn't be, but it's perfectly good there. It's really good.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. That's one of the things when we're making the comic book, I'm always like trying to get Ace to speed up the scene so we can get to the next gory battle scene. That's right. I'd much rather be drawing someone getting their head chopped off than having a conversation that advances the plot.
Yeah, I have to make sure that I add little bits of action in between, the actual story moving forward, or else it would just be a brawl for 24 pages.
And that follows great to let's talk about the writing now.
That's right. I want to get to Ace. I mean, Ace, what was your inspiration? Tell me some of the writers that have inspired you.
So, I mean, I grew up, and my dad, he loved books, and so I grew up reading like The Death Dealer. I grew up reading Conan the Barbarian. I grew up reading any Stephen King I could get my hands on. Lord of the Rings, Deathgate. I mean, sci-fi from, people you would know to people that you've never even heard of, and they may have sold the one book that I've got. My dad. All
right.
Have you ever seen this?
I have not.
This is the Conan Reader from 1965. Now, the cover is done by a young artist by the name of Bernie Wrightson. Mm-hmm. He was 18. It was his high school project or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think I saw you showing this off on one of your previous episodes.
Yep. And the reason why I bring this up is this is when Conan was, we didn't see Conan. Conan's first appearance in comics was in the 30s. So let's get that out of the way. And it stopped by 1934. I think it was over with. And then it doesn't come back technically into comics until, the Barry Windsor Smith stuff that was done much later on. But so they, based on the Conan art drawings, Wrightson drew this as Conan, and Barry Windsor Smith took this to create the Conan, which you see there followed. But when you talk about getting weird books, this is actually done by L. Sprague de Camp, so it's done by a real writer, It's done, but it's just a very small press, and it just kind of tells the history of Conan throughout the comics of how he got where he is. It's pretty weird.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So my dad and I used to just go to garage sales and look for 25-cent books, and if it had a dragon on the front of it, we would just buy it and we'd read it whether it was good or not. But so yeah, I did that, and then I used to collect comics, and then I got to a point where I wanted to spend my money on other things, and so unfortunately I fell out of comics, and my mom sold them all. And then once I actually started getting a real paycheck, I could start getting back into comics, and I jumped back in with the Aaron and Ribic run on Thor. So I kind of picked a very great time to jump in, and so I pull a lot of inspiration from Jason Aaron's writing, Tom King's writing, Snyder's writing, as well as Kirkman and Otley's run on Invincible. I like to have that big gory fight scene, but then also have the comedy interspersed in between. I think it really lightens up what could be considered a very dark comic book otherwise.
Well, I have a question about this current story arc. What is this story arc? I know we're 2 issues, but is this story arc actually a 5-issue story arc? What is this?
We've got 6 issues roughly planned out right now.
There we go.
I've gotten the writing done as far as probably 2 or 3 rough drafts in on issue 3, and then I've got a super rough outline of issue 4 done. But we have a 6-story outline made, and then a very, very vague idea of where we'd want to take it if we started a second run.
From the day that you guys said, let's do this, and you said, let's do it, to the day the book was physically in your hand, how long did it take?
Well, that's interesting. That's actually a more complicated question than you might think. We started with, when we very first started this project, there's actually a prequel story to this, to Magnus the Brave. It's like a storybook. It's almost it's written like a children's bedtime book, except it's got the similar like humor and graphic violence to it. But we did that first, and it that kind of like started this whole thing. But then after we got that and we got some fans and people were interested in the character, we about faced, and we did, through some other things that happened, we decided we're going to turn this into a comic book.
Got it.
Basically from there, from when we actually decided, when I drew the first panel to when it was actually the issue 1 was in people's hands, it was probably about, I don't know, 4 months or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And so we're trying to do it on about somewhere between about a 5-month run between issues. So since essentially Ace is the only one writing it and I'm doing all the art, and I'm a graphic design teacher, so I like do all the layouts and the lettering and the whole thing. I get ready for print and everything. So it's a heavy workload. If you would see our pay, like our hourly pay on this project, it would be
well, that actually just segues right into my next question. Was what was the greatest challenge in getting this thing done?
I think that it's it's not particularly challenging other than the time. So like, this is fun. The only reason we're doing this, I guess there is like a slight idea in the back of our minds that it's going to get picked up by a major publisher, that we're going to be rich one day. But really, we both have jobs. We're both teachers, and this is like a hobby that we like really enjoy. So we're not really constrained by deadlines or, a boss that's yelling at us to get the thing done. So we're just kind of like having fun and writing this. Hopefully people think it's super cool story. So there's the challenge of me maybe not being good enough at drawing, and I'm just getting better and better as I go. Or like the challenge of I don't have enough days or hours in the day. But I mean, it flows pretty nicely. If we had enough free time, we'd be killing it. Like if this is all we did, we'd have them out every 2 months probably. It's just that life gets in the way.
I got one more for you guys, and either one of you can answer this. What advice would you be giving to the young aspiring artist and or writer?
Just get out there and do it. I mean, we've talked to a bunch of people at cons that come up to our table and are like, oh, I've got all these stories and I just don't know where to start. And I'm like, well, neither did we. I mean, we had no idea how to do this. Chris had some ins with some people who could, and they said the exact same thing. Just make something and put it out there and then get it in people's hands. I mean, that's really all we did.
Yeah. The only advice of how to make a comic book is just start making a comic book. Like, I mean, honestly, you just gotta start trying. You can watch like YouTube tutorials and stuff on things and how to become a better artist or become a better writer. But the actual production of the comic book, you kind of just have to like do it and learn from your mistakes. Unfortunately, there's not like a great road to follow, I guess. Although that being said, the fact that Kickstarter is so popular and that there's some like social media so popular, there are many more avenues to getting your work out than there used to be. Because back in the day, you had to you could only go through one of the 5 publishing houses. Now you can get stuff out there as long as you have, somewhere between as long as you have like a loyal fan base that's medium sized, you can get stuff out.
What do you consider medium sized? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's fine. It's all public knowledge. I mean, in our case, we were looking for about $1,500 to produce somewhere between 500 and 1,000 comics, and we make about about $4,000 to $5,000 per Kickstarter. So we got, I don't know, we sell the first issue sold $1,000, and then the second issue we had throughout the Kickstarter we had like about 200 copies, and we're just gonna like go around to conventions and sling the rest of the ones that we have. So I think we're somewhere between like probably something like 500 to 1,000 actual readers. So I mean, it's enough to sustain our hobby.
Yeah. Right.
it could be enough to maybe make it big one day. But at the very least, we're going to be able to complete this cool 6-issue story, and hopefully people will, like it as much as we do. And I think we're actually, as you were mentioning at the top of the show, you can start to see that we're about to break into something a little deeper and a little weirder than maybe you were expecting.
I love it. Yeah.
So I think you're going to see that come through very soon, hopefully in the next couple issues.
Well, one of the things I want to touch on, Ace, was the writing and the dichotomy of the seriousness of what's going on with the humor is never comes more until like your cliffhanger. It's a serious moment. Fuck, he's got to deal with it. That's the way to put with it.
Yeah.
That's what he's just going to be like. All right.
Yeah.
And it's well done. And one of my favorite things that you've done, and this is why I recommend people try to get a hard copy of this. And we're going to have the link here afterwards. We're going to have the link, and I'm going to put it out again. And subscribe to these guys on Instagram, Chrisrauart, and the Comic Den, to Ace. And the best part about it is that they do this with the fan art at the back end of it is really cool.
Oh,
and you got everything from like a Jason Meents thing going on with one guy did like a Scotty Young Jason Meents kids version of it to some really interesting design characters of the characters you've done.
That's one of my favorite parts about the entire process.
There it is.
Yeah.
We devote about 10 pages at the back of each issue to other people's versions of our characters.
That is totally cool.
That's very cool.
Because I came up as an artist before I was actually like a comic creator, I have all these friends and connections who are, basically comic book artists. And so I figured I was trying to look for a way to use that in issue 1, and a bunch of people volunteered to do it for us. And then after we got going on that, me and Ace just started saying, no, you know what, we're going to just pay people to do it. We're going to find people that we love and commission them to make our character and put them in the back. So that's a combination of professional artists that I know, friends of mine, and then also professional artists that we both love that we've actually commissioned to do the work. And so we've got about 20 or so different versions of Magnus and
and
characters.
That's totally cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. Now, a question. I heard you guys mention it before that you used to collect and then Mama threw them all away and then you're getting back into collecting. Chris, are you currently collecting? Like, do you guys, are either of you reading stuff that came out on Wednesday? Did any of you run off to go get your X-Men? I'm just asking, are you guys still currently in the game of what is currently out right now? Is somebody reading Die? Are you guys reading X-Men? Are you still comic book fans to that level right now?
I am to a degree. What I read, I read like more obscure. I guess it's not obscure. I read like Image comics primarily. Like I'll read things like Headlopper and stuff. I'm not really up on.
Are you reading Reaver?
I'm not. I've heard that.
That's a good one, man.
But Ace is way more up on like the big runs of like X-Men and Batman and stuff like that. But
a lot of us in the Midwest here, I think we got to explain. A lot of us Midwesterners, guys, we think Cullen Bunn is mainstream. Like Cullen gets a kick out. Like Cullen, you're so mainstream now because we all like these indies and small little books that we collect here. That's such a weird Midwestern thing. You ever hear this comic? No, great, we're buying it. You never heard of it? I want it.
I'm definitely a weekly pull kind of guy.
Gotcha.
Right.
What's
right
on your
now,
pull? What's on your pull? What are you pulling?
I've got a couple of the X-Men titles. I've got a bunch of DC with Batman.
How could you decide what X-Men titles not to buy? Honestly,
yes.
Could you do it?
It's more of a budget. It's more of a budget thing.
I know that's what I just said. I'm like, man, okay, there's so many titles. I'm on issue 3. What can I drop?
Yeah,
because I can't keep buying them all. I think I'm probably going to drop New Mutants, Fallen Angel, and just stick with X-Force and X-Men.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. You said Tom King, so you're definitely on Batman right now, right?
Oh yeah, I love Batman, and I hate seeing the hate that's flowing towards Tom King.
Tell me, without spoiling it, because I haven't read it yet, because it's on its way, because that's one that I didn't run off to buy. I have it coming. Mm-hmm. Does this tie it together? I'm hearing people tell me that, hey, dude, this is tying some stuff together.
Well, the whole thing, like I said, I'm about 2 weeks behind.
Okay.
You know, we've
supposedly this last issue is starting to just suck all his storyline together, and maybe he goes out with a bang.
That was the whole plan, was for him to have like 118 issues, and it ties from, you know, the Gotham series all the way up through City of Bane, and then it was all supposed to be one big cohesive story, which a lot of people like shit on that, but I love it. I mean, I love that Jason Aaron wrote a story that started 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And is now, you know, he's even tying I've heard rumors that he's tying Ghost Rider back into what he's doing with the Avengers. I mean, to span a decade in, you know, one story arc, I love that, because that's how whenever I read books, that's how I read books too. You know, Stephen King started writing The Gunslinger back in like 70 something or late 70s, and then he didn't finish it until, you know, last year almost. I love that, because you get so personally invested in the story, and so that's kind of the vision that I have for Magnus too, is that I just keep writing it in some form or fashion, and I can tell this big long story. So by the time it's done, it is one giant cohesive story.
Very cool.
I
like what you're doing with it for sure.
What I really liked about, you know, when you brought up Jason Aaron's store, which I assume that's what it is, that's his long name. You know, you start with, you know, God of Thunder 1, and you go all the way up until King Thor to where we're going with it now. And he's handing that torch off, define irony, to
Johnny Cates
to take over Thor, January 2020.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
But Jason hangs up and Donny Cates takes over Thor.
Wow, that's gonna be good.
Now this is what's driving me nuts. My favorite two characters ever. And I'm a Cates fan. I like what he did with Venom. I really like what he did with I really like his other works, to be honest with you. I like that Redneck and that goes to Thanos wins arc in Thanos 13-18. Cosmic Ghost Rider I thought was really good. I think that was a good storyline, and Silver Surfer Black was perfect. So
it's always scary to hand your baby off to somebody else, though.
Yeah, I know, and I'm like, I was trying to think, what was my reaction when I heard Aaron was doing Thor, and if you want to know how messed up it is with Aaron got me back to Thor.
Yeah,
because I didn't leave comics. I left Marvel. Big time. I hated it for a while, and it was Aaron doing Wolverine, because I liked Aaron's Scout. Are you familiar with Scout?
Yeah.
Scout Comics?
I'll tell you what
yeah, they're the ones that keep coming out with TV shows, right?
Is that what it is? I mean, at this point, there's such a demand for content. I mean, gentlemen, this could get picked up. Who says it can't? All right, there's such a demand for all of these platforms. They need more and more and more and more content, that it's just exactly what they're looking for. Because in their minds, I mean, if they go to Marvel or DC, that's going to cost them huge money for a property. Magnus, I bet it wouldn't be that expensive. And you'd be willing to work with them.
Yeah, we've had that conversation. We've had that conversation, and you know, one of our concerns is like, well, it's really bloody and it's really gory. I think ideally we'd love to see like a cartoon. And then Primal came out, and we're like, oh no, we got this. Primal, we said that ours was too bloody, and Primal gave us the hold my beer. So
hold my beer. There you go. What do you got, JD? What's up there? What are you showing us?
Jason Aaron's first working was Scalped.
Scalped. He said
Scalped.
Scalped.
I heard Scalped. Yes.
Okay.
So this was my favorite run. My comic that I was Vertigo. This is what I got every single one when it was coming out. This was my favorite run. I still have every one. I literally leather bound the first 24. I was going to do this with the rest of them, but I just got lazy, and I said, why am I spending $82 on leather bounding books?
So
but that was the thing. But what I was getting into this is what got me into the Thor.
Right.
As I was always reading Thor, but I was, again, if it was more than 25 cents, I usually didn't read it. I'm literally going back and rereading Monster Frankenstein 1 through 18 right now. So, Mike Plug, great artist, Mike Plug. So,
Chris, what was the first comic book you remember buying with your money, not your parents' money, your money?
Oh, that's interesting. So I probably can't even remember exactly. It would have been something like in the early 90s. It would have been like a X-Men. Oh, geez. It was probably, sorry, my wife just flipped me off when she walked. I think it was like I'm going to guess it was probably like something like 1995, some sort of X-Men run that I would have probably just gotten from the grocery store. Like, that was like the move. You would just grab a couple off the shelf kind of thing.
Do you still have it?
I don't even know where those went. No, I don't.
So you do not still have it? All right.
No.
Do you? But you're a collector right now. Do you still collect? Do you have bags? Do you have like a couple short boxes still full of comics? Would you say you're a comic book collector?
A little bit. I'm not really a collector as much as I use them more for like reference to draw.
Got it.
Like I'm not as much in like I need to get whatever issue to complete my collection or whatever. Oftentimes I'll just wait and get like a trade paperback. So I probably got I don't know, a couple hundred trades, something like that.
That's quite a few.
It's quite a few, but it's not because I'm trying to like collect anything necessarily. Just as I've liked things over the last 30 years, I'll just pick something up and read it or keep it and flip it open and copy someone's art or whatever like that.
Very cool. So early on, we had mentioned, I'm not sure if we mentioned it too early, but the first 2 books of Magnus the Brave were done strictly funded through Kickstarter, and now there's another thing coming. It's not out yet, but it is coming down the pipe. You want to give us a little background on that one?
You got it? Okay. Yeah. So with us both being teachers, with this second Kickstarter, we kind of learned a hard lesson that you shouldn't start a Kickstarter in the middle of summer. And we saw that our numbers were lower than the first one, but like I was telling you guys beforehand, we hit our goal like 2 days after instead of 30 minutes after we started it.
Okay.
So, I don't want to complain too much about it, but we figured it would probably be best if we do like 1 per semester. So our goal is at the beginning of the school year, start, tying up everything in this issue. And then hopefully we can have something out before Christmas, which is what we did with issue 2. And then hopefully our next one will be out sometime, March, maybe April.
nice.
But like Chris said, we don't really want to put the Kickstarter out until we're done, because we've had those situations where we back something on Kickstarter and then 3 years later we still don't have a product.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we have something ready to be shipped off to the printer before we start asking people for money.
Got it. Now you both mentioned, or Chris, I think you mentioned going to cons and getting rid of the rest of the books. What's on the con schedule for next year?
So we've got Planet's the big one. So Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City, we're going to be there. I've done a couple of smaller ones in Missouri, and we just got back from Air Capital in Wichita. I've done a couple in Columbia. I'm thinking about expanding to possibly St. Louis or Omaha, but like we're Midwestern people. I'm from Kansas City. Ace is from Wichita. We're not really ready to I don't think get long-term sort of travel plans and hotels and stuff. But I think as of right now, the only thing on the schedule is Planet, and I believe I've got a smaller one in Columbia. I might have another smaller one in Kansas City as well.
Planet's a great one.
Chris, are you actively offering commissions?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always got the commission list open. It's pretty full right now, but I will gladly take any of your listeners if they mention that they heard it here.
There you go.
Very nice. And again, getting a hold of you, are you all available on Instagram or?
Yeah, Instagram. It's Chris. It's Mr. Rao Art actually, which is teacher moniker, I think. And then on Facebook is fine, and my Etsy site as well. Again, it's Chris Rao Art. If you just Google Chris Rao Art, you'll find all the different links to everything. But also, as you said, I'll send a link to you after the show, and you can put it up.
We'll put it in the description below for sure. Now, Ace, what do you got coming up? What else? What else is you working on?
So right now, I'm really just trying to hammer out issue 4. I've got a pretty solid issue 3 set up. and Chris is chipping away at the art as we go. And kind of the process we found is that as he draws, we make small tweaks because he'll get into a panel like, no, it's going to be way cooler if we do this, or he'll show me something and I'll say, well, let's change the direction a little bit and we'll go this way. So really just kind of working on that. And like I said, I've got a really rough outline of issue 4, and issue 4 is going to be enormous. I can already tell there's going to be a lot of craziness going on. This is where it gets real.
This is where it starts to get heating up. But then again, I thought it was heating up from panel 1 of page 1. It was pretty hot. Yeah.
Issue 3 is definitely going to be a step up from issue 2. We're definitely kicking it up a notch there, both in the storytelling and in the action sequences and some of the characters we've developed. Chris has just drawn like a couple of panels and we've already fallen in love with a couple of new characters. Like these guys are going on for several issues now when they started out as just throwaways. So yeah, I'm really just concentrating on that. I'm also looking for an artist for, like I said, my other story that I'm writing out, High or Low. So yeah, if there's any artists out there, hit me up. Let me see what you got. We'll see if we can make it work. But
there are artists that watch this show. I can pop a couple of names out there. That's very interesting. So if you're just joining us and you're popping in, you're saying, hey, Comic Core, there's something on live. Wait a minute, there's something live on Comic Core every night of the week. That's right. We're here live with Ace Knuckles right above me. He's the writer, and Chrisrauart right next to me over here. He's the artist of a great new comic book, new to me anyway, called Magnus the Brave. The first 2 issues are out. They are available. There will be links in the description below to get your hands on this comic book. It is absolutely cleverly written. It's gory. It's got a lot of blood, but it's very humorous, and I can see that this story can really develop into something special. So I'm really looking forward to the next issue. So I just want to give a quick recap. JD, tell me what you got. Any more questions for our esteemed guest here?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, what the? Wait.
I wanted to show this. This is what they look like. This is and the arrows that are evident are great. Magnus 1 and Magnus the Brave 1, Magnus the Brave 2. Here they are. And the characters are great. It's a great. You can we're going to say, just read it. It's hysterical. It's good. It's action packed with a serious story. But he's got such a great dark sense of humor. It's great.
Yes, definitely. It is a serious story, but you're right. It's that sense of humor that he carries with him. Yeah. And definitely something to be proud of, gentlemen. I mean, you guys have done something good together, and I'm definitely looking forward to what's coming up next. So I think
one business thing to get out of the way here. We still have coming on any Comic Core video posted between November 10th and December, including the hashtag Comic Core Smash to win the Hulk prize, the Hulk figurine.
And now that I got you, there was someone that asked me the other day, are there any Moira boxes available, or is that completely sold out?
No, we still have 10 left over here. They are shipping as we speak. The biggest problem we had was with the post office sent the boxes to ship them in. They were too small. They were custom. So we had to wait for a whole new set of boxes, but we got them. We still have about, looks like 10 left. Give or take one. Looks like one's tilted, so it looks like somebody.
So go ahead and give everyone the recap of what the Moira box is. It's a fundraiser for
a great box where you get
ours.
7 high pedigree style books. There's one in there that's probably worth about $10 to $15. A highly desirable variant or something on Michael Turner. These are all from TJ, the Slab Dragon Watson. These were all donated to him for the Moira cause. Which is Paul, Midwest Comic Man's daughter, who had open heart surgery and now has had a bad reaction to the medicine. So what we've been trying to do is raise money to help them get Moira back and forth to the hospital. And, it's about a 45-minute drive each way. So just a little tough on there. But then we have, and each one of them has 7 books in there. There's going to be some Image, some Dynamite, maybe Marvel, DC, everything in there. I've seen books from Silver, there's some 12 centers, 25 centers, 20 centers, up to some modern variants, all sorts of different books. So really good stuff. And they're called Dragon Heart boxes. And this is what you'll get a sticker on there. And they were stickers were put on by Moira herself in my house. If you want to check out that video that was done a few Sundays ago, check out that video. You'll see exactly what was in the boxes. Apparently, I was getting messages saying, "Holy cow, that's a $150 Spawn book," or "I can't believe you have that the Greg Capullo and a Jim Lee variant of something we had that was like 1 in 100." So pretty good stuff that was in there. It's all donated by TJ, the Slab Dragon Watson.
Which, if you've ever seen TJ's collection, is just amazing.
Right. So yeah, I mean,
these are not your dollar bin diving book. I don't think TJ's probably ever.
Yeah, these are the highest grade of books there are. And again, if you want to know how to do it, you send the money right there. Oops, sorry, to onecomiccore@gmail.com. All payments, friends and family, and they are $39.99. $29.99 goes to the family, $10 to shipping. Shipping is actually $15, but we're okay with eating some of it here and there.
There you go.
So,
now, also, I always like to mention that if you're new to the channel and you're popping in to check out our guests here, thanks for stopping by and checking out the Comic Core. We are a channel that is here for the community. We're here for the comic book community, and we provide an outlet for content creators like myself and JD to come on and interview some amazing content creators like these gentlemen here who are joining us. So I'm really excited to be part of this. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, Comic Core goes off the rails with the signature show. If it's, you know what I say, it's Friday night. People have a good time. This show's going on. Anything can happen. They've got guests popping in and out all the time. So that's a great show. Are there any future appearances in your guys' future that you would like to plug at this time?
Actually, I've got an art show happening in about 2 weeks here in Kansas City.
There we go. And where is that going to be taking place at?
It's going to be at Parlor KC in the Crossroads. I'm going to be down there with some artist friends. We're going to be maybe selling some Magnus books. Who knows? But there's going to be a pretty good crew down there. So if you're in town on December 18th in Kansas City, come down to Parlor KC for a show.
We have some
very cool
in that area.
Yes, we do have people that are in that area. So that's
you guys want to come down and just say hi. We can hang out for a little while.
There you go. Yeah.
Very cool. And Ace, what do you got?
Right now, the only thing on my slate is Planet Comic-Con. I'm trying to set up a couple things over in Hutchinson, which is a little ways west from me, for their Smallville Comic-Con this summer. And then I might hit up just a little small sale that a local comic book shop, Wizards Asylum, is having in a couple of weekends. But I'm still waiting on all that to kind of shake out.
Well, I've got a special offer for you, actually. If you finish getting caught up on your Batman reading, I'd love to get me and you and a gentleman named Drew Manchu all together on a little discussion about how this is all playing out, because that would be fantastic.
Absolutely, man.
Because we have to and Drew is great at this. He's very much the doubting Thomas of all doubting Thomases when you talk about Tom King. And Tom King can do no right, but if he ties it together,
he ties this together in the last couple of issues, man, this is going to be good. So it may all be forgiven. All will be forgiven.
I'll forward over to that contact info.
Yeah, sure. I'd be down for that. Just let me know when you want it to go down.
Perfect.
So JD, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap, right? What do you think?
That's it. This is it. We're normally going to be a half-hour show. Not every week. We are going to be when we can book interviews, when we can do it, and it may be one or both of us. It'll always be two nerds, but we figure we're just going to market it on fat guys with beards getting together. So
there you go. So Ace, thank you for joining us. Chris, thank you for joining us on the inaugural episode of what are we calling this thing again?
Between Two Nerds.
Between Two Nerds. Why can't I remember that? Thank you for joining us for the inaugural episode of Between Two Nerds. I did not really shout out the chat in this show. I'm sorry, but we had a great group in the chat. Thank you.